Welcome to another episode of Mojave River Valley News. I'm your host, Eric Swanson. This is our special report for the election that happened yesterday. And so last night we went ahead and each time there was an update, we kept up with it. Each time we went along there. And I think the last update we did last night was 2 o'clock. We finally got it edited and got it out, I think about 3 or so, because one of the things we were noticing, the state, and I think really what it is that the state is not running behind. It's just that the Register of Voters Office was not doing a very good of sending the feed to the state. I think that's really what it came down to, because we were watching other counties were like snap, snap, snap. It was like when their time came, it was like within a minute the feed was up. San Bernardino County, I think, has got some challenges they're gonna have to look at and see what's going on down there. But one of the things we want to give you an update, there's a lot of changes that happened, and exciting changes, things that we predicted, some things that, well, we talked about last night. We weren't sure if that made a difference. So let's go ahead and start going through here. First of all, you know what? If you haven't had a chance, if you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe and click the little bell so that when we have these, that you'll be notified that the video is up there. On social media, you know, it's like, please go ahead. If you have any questions, and we're going to answer some of the questions that came through, go ahead and email us at socialmedia@ciso.com, and we'll take a look at that. Also on Facebook, you know, make sure you like us. Make sure that it's that we can go ahead and be able to connect you with what's going on out here, because we want to do more videos like this that have to do with local issues. And so this is part of our process, what we're doing here. So let's go ahead and get right into it. I want to talk about some of the races here. Some of the races you probably already heard on TV. I'm just going to go through these very fast. So it's going to be Gavin and Brian will be the heads up this fall here. Let's go ahead and go to the next one here. The other one is, you know, the lieutenant governor. I'm not even going to go through the names here real quick. You just get a chance to see where they are here. Most of these races here are pretty tough to beat. Some of them are far as being a Democrat or Republican seat. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. That's lieutenant governor. This is California. This is the controller. Now this one's kind of interesting because Lanhee Chen is a Republican and is actually is taking the top here. But remember, both of these will be against each other, so anything can happen between now and November. Let's go to the next slide here. Another good example that for example, what we have here is we have a Republican against a Democrat, and like I said, that's what we're going to see for the treasurer. Let's go to the next slide here. The next slide is the Attorney General, the same kind of thing, where we have we're sending 2 people up there, and so we have a Republican against a Democrat on this too. Let's move to the next slide here. This insurance commissioner. Now this one's still kind of interesting. I think that it's too early still to call. It's possible that Robert Howell could actually take this. He's got that little bit of an edge there, but you know what? It could shift around. If you said, Eric, you got to pick somebody right now, I would probably say Robert Howell is going to go against Ricardo Laura for sure. But we have not called this one yet. I think it'll still take one more day to get a few more votes in there to say, yeah, this is pretty solid here. Some of these small areas out there that are that are remote, sometimes those ballots don't get counted real quick, and there's still a lot of absentees, there's provisionals, and all these other, you know, ballots that are coming from all kinds of different directions, you know, from overseas and so forth. Sometimes it takes a little time to get these things all knit up. That's why it takes weeks to actually certify these elections. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide here. So I wanted to touch last night. We made a mistake. We had the wrong slide up for the District 1. Ted Gaines, he has been an insurance commissioner for quite a while, and he's the one that covers this area here. I'm sorry, insurance commissioner. He's the State Board of Equalization. And so he'll be going up against Jose. So Ted and Jose will be heading up. But you know what? Ted has actually held this. I think this is going to be a tough race for Jose to actually take. I think Ted's pretty much got this one in the bag. Let's go to District number 2. Even though District number 2 is not part of our area here, I wanted to put up here because it's kind of interesting. If you look at the numbers here, how close they are from the 3 seats. We'll see actually what happens on this. I don't think this is the right data for this. This is not, this is what we have here. This is for the, this is not the state organization, District 2. This is actually the numbers for the education. So this is Secretary of Education up there, not equalization. So Tony Thurmond is the one that's been in there for a while. There's a couple of names there that have been very, very popular that have risen to the surface. Yang has been very popular. So we'll see where this actually comes out. Long has also been very popular out there. Let's go into the next slide here. We've already talked about, the United States Senate. This is for the full term. Remember, the full term is the one that actually happens in November. There's the short term, which fills in. I don't even want to get into it. It's very, very complicated to talk about, well, why does this happen and this happening here? Remember that Alex Padilla, he was the one that took the seat, filled the seat appointed by the governor. Remember, he was also part of the, I'm trying to remember, gosh, I totally draw it back. I think it was Secretary of State. So Mark Mosner is working on really hard. He's very dynamic. I don't know if he's going to be able to fill this gap here. It's going to be tough, but I know Mark will be out there working pretty hard to make this flip. Let's go and go into the next one. Now, this is the short term. All you have to do is get the majority of the vote for this one. It's not top two. And so Alex Padilla will be the senator between now and the election, or actually if it changes, when they get sworn back in January. Let's go to the next slide here. Representatives, this is kind of interesting. This is Jay Obernolte. Everybody knows him in the area here. He pretty much swept this pretty hard here. I think that Derek Marshall will probably, is going to be running a tough race here. I went ahead and called this. I just don't think Blanca can get enough votes to pass Derek. Enough votes have come in today. And one of the things we did notice in this election here that it's a lot of the absentee ballots that were mailed in and so forth sometimes were leaning a little bit more to the Democratic seats, and what was happening at the polls were more the Republican seats, and I'm sure many of you even heard that on the news. That's been kind of the trend across the country. Let's go to the next slide here. This is number 28. This is the seat that includes for Wrightwood up there. We just wanted to put it on here. One of the things that this will be an interesting race here, but I think that it's going to be very, very tough for Judy Chu will definitely take this seat, I'm sure, in November. It's going to be a tough one for West to beat. So let's go to the next one here. Getting into the assembly seats. Now this one has been very, very interesting, because when we first started here, we were looking at the numbers and not recognizing what the ballots were, the absentee ballots were going to be. And Rita Ramirez just pretty much, just was taking over this race. And we predicted that she would be one of the seats. And then we were looking at for Smitty Smith and Tom Lackey, figuring out where they're going to fit on this. And it was all over the place. And we're saying, well, gosh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen here? Well, as of today, this is the 4 o'clock update, is what we're showing you today. You can see that Smitty is ahead by 9 votes. Now, what I'm going to predict here, we'll see if this actually happens or not. We do know this. We're pretty solid in saying that it's going to be Smith against Lackey. No question, I think, in November. I don't think Rita today she's already seen, there's no trending. Her trending is going down here. I don't see any other ballots are going to come in to help her at this point here. It's just the trending is not there. So here's the question is we do know that it's going to be Smith and Lackey that'll be in November. The question will be because a lot of the votes in the Victor Valley or the Mojave River Valley area have not been counted. So there's still this big count that's going on where LA County has done most of their counting. It's quite a bit of it's out of the way. My prediction is that there'll be a bigger gap. I'm not saying how much. There'll be a much bigger gap than 9 votes between Smitty and Lackey. I just think that because the votes haven't been counted here, we're pretty sure it's because things are so delayed. This is the Mojave River Valley. This is Smitty's area here, which is which is the eastern part of Hesperia, Apple Valley, and the eastern part of Victorville. These are areas that Smitty is very, very, very strong in. And Tom Lackey, most of his votes have been counted, I believe. So the question is, how many votes is he going to get here? Well, if he gets, for example, so let's say he gets 5 votes, and Smitty gets 8 votes for this area here, you can see that it's going to escalate that way. So my prediction here, it's going to be quite a few votes between Smitty and Lackey. We'll just have to see. But we do know this. I feel really confident in this, that it's going to be Smitty against Lackey in November. Let's go into the next slide. This is Assembly District 39. Remember, I talked about yesterday, if you didn't catch this, on the first video, I went over exactly where these districts are and why they got aligned and how the 2020 census worked and so forth. If you get a chance, just go back and watch that video, and you can, within the first half an hour, you can get caught up on some of these things that changed. A lot of people just don't recognize they're out there. So one of the things that's interesting is Paul Marsh is slowly pulling away from Juan Carrillo. It's the gaps keeps getting wider and wider, and I think this is a big indicator of seeing that the Democrats' votes were mostly from the absentees and not from the poll. It's just traditionally that a lot of Republicans want to vote in person. With the Democrats, we've seen the bigger numbers with the absentee ballots or mail-in ballots. So this one here is solid. It'll be these two in November against each other, and we'll see where this race lands. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Getting into county races, and some of the things here that we added last night, we just wanted to touch on. A lot of you might be thinking, well, Eric, we don't vote for District 2 or District 4 because this area here, unless you're way out in Barstow, this area here is District 1. So why are these on here? Well, so I have we got to get into the politics of things a little bit here, because for things to happen, there's 5 supervisors. So we have Paul Cook, which is in our area here. We have Donald Rao, which is Barstow out there. And so the key thing is where do we get that? So those two will probably align a lot of, because they want to do stuff for the desert. They got to find one more vote. So one of the things I have to go back to is that when you're looking on here, Kirk Hagman has been a very, very good friend of the desert. So it's pretty easy to count on him for voting along with Paul to make sure that we're getting the resources that we need from county resources up here. I think that both Jesse and Luis will do the same. So really what we can count on for what this race is we're going to count on that we can have 4 votes up here, which is going to be very, very helpful, because there's been times in the past where the supervisors have not been very friendly to the desert. And we've lost out on a lot of goods and services going way, way back. It hasn't been that way for a while now. We're holding our own today. Robert Levingood did a good job with it. Brad Messelfeld did a good job of it. And even before that, with Bill Postmus, he brought a lot of money back in the area. But before that, those were the years that the desert kind of got left out. Nothing happened here. So now if you notice, there's 2 check marks for District 2. It's because neither one of the candidates got the 50% plus 1. So for these kind of races, these aren't 2 people that go. For county races, it's either if you don't hit the threshold of 50% plus 1, then you have a runoff. So that's where we see Luis and we see Jesse are both going to be running against each other in November. The other side of the coin here is that if you look at Kurt Hagman did get his 50% plus 1, and we're pretty confident. I don't think those numbers are going to change any. I think those will stay that. Everything seems to be trending that way. I think that he's going to be safe with that, and I think we can actually say that Kirk Hagman will be the supervisor for the 4th district. So just kind of sharing with you a little bit of the politics so you have a chance to understand why these races are very, very important for the desert. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide here. I want to touch on some of them. One of the things that we have to recognize is the assessor recorder's office. Bob Dunton did not have anybody to run against him, so he's solid. So we know that he'll be our assessor recorder for the next 4 years. Also, getting back into the auditor, controller, treasurer, tax collector. And so Instant Mason has been the person that has been our person in there, has done an amazing job for us. And so he had a challenger here, but he definitely, if you notice, both of these races here are definitely over the 55% threshold. And if you look at, of course, Bob's is almost everybody, so it doesn't really matter on that one there. Let's go ahead and go to the next race, because we have two more to talk about as far as these type of county races that are basic county functions without being education functions. And that's Jason Anderson. Jason, you can tell that nobody ran against him. He's very happy. He's doing the county's very happy with him. He's doing an amazing job in there. Tough to beat what he's doing. I'm just so impressed with Jason all the time. It's just we have a great DA for San Bernardino County, and it's a lot of things. It's one of the things you take for granted, but he's just doing an amazing job. Now, Shannon Dykes, remember that John McMahon went ahead and decided to step away, and so the county supervisors appointed Shannon Dykes, and so with that in mind, so now he has to run this year because this term is up. It would have been up anyway for this year. So he had to have a challenger, but you can see that he, by big margin, he got his 50% plus one. So it's solid that Shannon Dykes will be our sheriff for the next 4 years, which is, I couldn't be happier with that. Let's go ahead and move on here, because now what we have is the judges. I want to talk about the judges real quick. There was 2 judges. We don't vote for judges. A lot of times when we see judges on our ballot going, oh my gosh, who are these people? I don't even know who they are. These 2 judges really stood out, and I want to make sure we look at this, because I think a lot of folks recognize both of these judges work, or these now judges, they will be judge candidates, or judge elects, I guess. They both worked for the DA's office. Both of these folks, I've interviewed them, I've talked with them. These are solid people. Be very proud to have these folks serve as in our judicial department. So David Tulkin, you know, I got a chance to talk to him a lot. Very impressed, and Melissa, she's just amazing too. So both of these seats here will be the judges that'll come in for the office number 7 and number 17. Many of these judgeships, and it gets very complicated, and I don't want to get into it on this video, that most of them are appointed by the governor. So just occasionally these things fall in where we actually get to have a local voice of what our judges are going to be. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide here. This is the county superintendent of schools. Ted Alejandre has been the I believe this is his 3rd term. I believe he's walking into now. He's done a real good job for education. I mean, I can't say anything bad about him. Ken Larson sits currently on the county board of education for District 1. I think that Ken, I'm not sure why Ken decided to challenge Ted, but he did. So, it's pretty obvious that Ted overwhelmingly got his 50% plus one. So that race is pretty much done. I mean, not done. I don't see that even changing. So Ted will be our superintendent of county education for the next 4 years. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide here. So I want to touch again, so you recognize we did not get, for I understand, we did not get a 4 o'clock update because all the precincts came in. As soon as all the precincts come in, the way I've been told, is that you don't do it by 2 hours. Now you do it by day. I don't know what time today, that the reporting time is at 4 o'clock. I didn't get a chance to look, and I should have seen the screen of what time it is for tomorrow, but I'm assuming it'll be 4 o'clock tomorrow. And we'll start seeing more and more, for example, provisional ballots. We'll start seeing more of the absentee ballots that haven't been counted yet. So the numbers on these races will slowly move up. It'll take a few weeks for this actually to settle out. But you know, probably by the end of the week, I'm not sure if we'll have any questions on what races. I think we'll start seeing either that there will be a span of difference between the races, or we'll start seeing trending so that we know as even one's going up, others are going up quicker. There's not one of these things where somebody's getting ready to pass somebody. Now, does that mean that can happen? 4 years ago, we had a race with the Hesperia Recreation Park District where we had James Roberts and we had James Blocker. They were running. James Blocker was the incumbent. James Roberts was the challenger on this. And it was very interesting because when it started, James was way up there. I mean, you thought, oh my gosh, James has got this. Well, slowly, day by day, James Roberts got closer and closer until he finally passed him. and then at that point there, it was done. It just overtook it. And I don't know, in his case, it could have been the way he did his campaigning. Maybe James Roberts was able to concentrate more on the absentees than James Roberts was. So you can see sometimes it has a difference of how their campaign goes. But anyway, so we're going to see day by day, we'll see updates. We'll keep you updated. There are some races we'll start pushing out of the way, so the only ones we'll be talking about are the ones that are close. We won't go into all the races and waste all your time on that. For example, tomorrow we will probably, unless it's a tight race, we're not even going to talk about the big state races. We'll probably even pull out of the county races because they're not close enough. They're done. Also, we will probably pick a few of the races. For example, the 34th Assembly District. We'll probably keep an eye on that at least for one more day for tomorrow, just to watch that. But I think that one's pretty solid. There's a few races you saw that we had some question marks on. We will continue to try to keep you updated on that. You know, if you are on YouTube, please give a chance to go and subscribe and ring the bell, because that helps us make sure we're getting the message out to the folks out there. If you're on Facebook, make sure you come back and you check us off there. If you have any questions on this, I think I covered all the questions. There was one question that came through on social media, and it had to do with a question about some election times, and I think I covered that here tonight. If I didn't, please email me back and say, Eric, you didn't cover that the way I thought I needed it. I thought I covered that for tonight. The rest of them, there was a few other questions, but all that information I thought I made sure I covered throughout tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm your host, Eric Swanson. This is a special report from Mojave River Valley News. We'll see you next time. Well, actually, for sure, we'll catch the video tomorrow. Stay tuned with us.